All right, folks, welcome to the runningrestaurants.com podcast, where we're bringing the tips, tools, and techniques you need to know to make your restaurant more profitable and successful. I'm your host, Jaime Oikle. Today, I got a great episode for you. Got Jordan Boesch, CEO of 7Shifts. Jordan, listen, welcome, first of all. Lots of folks know 7Shifts, but let's start with an intro, who you guys are, what you do. We'll go from there.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, Jamie. So what 7Shifts is we're a team management platform geared towards the restaurant industry. So what I mean by that is we started out, which is how most people know us, as scheduling, and where we've really ventured into and broadened our horizons is really into all aspects of this employee journey. So everything from the moment someone's hired, they're trained, they're scheduled, then they're paid after they work their shifts, and then they're effectively retained. So that's where we tend to focus in a nutshell. So everything from scheduling to paying out your tips and running payroll. Today, the company is used by about 1 in 10 restaurant workers across North America and about 50,000 restaurants. So really excited to serve such a great industry that many of us, dine in and are a part of in everyday life.
Yeah, let's go back to like the starting point, because I'm sure you just mentioned you started differently from where you are today. How long have you guys been doing it? What was and specifically, what was the hey, let's do this in restaurants?
Yeah, so early days, it was really me working for my dad who ran some Quiznos locations where I'm from.
Hmm.
And as with most family businesses, you end up working in them. And so got a little bit of experience doing that and just watch my dad really struggle with managing some of the staff and just their availability and when they can work. And a lot of folks were calling into to the locations asking when the schedule was out, if they could read it off to them. And I was just getting into programming at the time, and I was teaching myself some things. And I thought, Dad, why don't I just try and build you something really small and rudimentary to try and help
Mhm.
you with this problem? So that's really where it started. And he was our first customer, and got some good feedback. But really, the first days of 7Shifts, what that looked like was a bunch of employees sharing the same username and password and downloading the Excel spreadsheet that my dad would post online. So that was the most alpha of all alpha versions of software that I had been involved in building to date, but exciting that it led to where we are today.
Yeah, I want to talk about the journey because tech has changed. I don't know if when you started the phones were as prevalent. I'm guessing not. And now everything can be quick and mobile. So talk about the pain points. You guys work with so many restaurants, and you already clarified some of those some of those just things that sucked before. Like, hey, what's my schedule? I want to make a change. I'm not available. How do I do those things? What derivation of questions did you guys go through to keep making it better and better? What were some of those early things?
Yeah, some of the pain points are exactly what you talked about. I think just every day, restaurant operators have so many pain points and paper cuts that hurt every day.
Yeah.
And there's just so much going on. And so a big part of why not only so we started servicing and meeting the needs of initially my dad, who is the reason we started this, but when we grew 7Shifts, which used to be a side project, into something more full time, myself and my other co-founders, we were really serving multiple industries with 7Shifts.
Hmm.
We were sort of doing retail, we were doing some construction, some medical, and it was a few years into our journey together that we felt like, okay, we've all been part of building software at a bunch of different companies. One thing that we always were frustrated about or struggled with is that it was almost, hey, build whatever the sales team wants, sort of the flavor of the day, and just so we can close this customer. And the take that we had is we really wanted to have a more refined vision of what we were working towards, such that we could take in feedback, but it didn't dictate exactly where we were going, but it really just informed the vision and the direction. And so we made a hard call in 2023 to say, you know what, we're not going to focus on retail anymore. We're not going to focus on all these other industries that we serve. If you put into perspective, we stopped focusing on about 2/3 of our customer
Wow.
in 2013. Um, and that was very challenging for all of us, and especially my co-founders. But we sort of said, okay, well, if we want to do this really well, we don't want to be the jack of all, master of none. We want to be the best at what we do. Then let's focus on the hospitality industry. It's an industry that we love to serve. It's an industry, or sorry, that we all love, dining in these places, and it's an industry that seems to has not had a lot of innovation in it, and people have tended to avoid the SMB restaurant segment because margins are so low, they can't pay for software, all of these reasons of sort of why would you target them. That's just doesn't make business sense.
Yeah.
And I think all of those reasons are what fueled us to say, well, that sounds like an opportunity. That sounds like an underserved market, an industry that we have all an appreciation for. And frankly, it's where Seven Shifts started. So why don't we focus our chips there? And we did that, and we started to integrate with some of the from making that stance. It means we attracted the right partnerships. We then sought out, or people sought us out to say, well, we want to integrate with Seven Shifts, whether it was a restaurant focused point of sale or an inventory management tool. And through these partnerships with other hospitality technology companies, it just strengthened our position as that player in the market. And so it was from there that we just kept riding that, and now, I mean, even at the time, there was so much investment being poured into restaurant technology companies that we sort of, in some ways we picked hospitality, but then we got, timing helped us, and that we rode a bit of like an innovation wave where a lot of folks were starting to invest in restaurant tech. And so, that's really carried us to where we are today. But we haven't lost sight of, trying to build really great experiences for the operators that are just simple, easy, streamlined, that connect those parts of the employee journey from hiring, training, scheduling, paying, and retaining. I think that there's still a gap in the industry that we're consistently chipping away at.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you guys and other folks are tackling restaurant tech and helping restaurants, because traditionally it's been, tech phobic industry and so forth, and so many ways to shrink costs and manage costs better. So let's switch to some of the stuff you guys do a great job creating content, creating reports and case studies. So I want to go to some of that for a little while and how it relates to building culture, and then just what we're seeing in the marketplace. So there's a quote somewhere on your site or in the PR stuff, people don't quit their job, they quit their manager, right? I mean, that aspect of, hey, if you're not leading well and managing well, people don't always go for the pay. They leave for other reasons. What have you seen?
Yeah, I think the report that we compiled is a really great report. I find, well, it's funny, I find myself looking back at it, every so often here too, like weekly. But we surveyed 1,500 restaurant workers on what employees want, and we've been doing this for a few years now, just to see if anything's really changed and what is driving engagement at the front line. And a bunch of the results are pretty familiar to what we had seen in prior years. Some of the key findings in this report are flexibility remaining an advantage in hospitality.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, camaraderie is as essential as getting paid, meaning coworkers value the team they actually work on as much or even more than what they actually get paid. Number three is employees don't leave restaurants, they leave managers.
Mm-hmm.
And this is pretty true in every industry. If you don't like the manager that you're working for, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, you're probably one foot out the door. And number four is you can't give too much recognition or feedback. It turns out, and I can, this is something that we've heard in many studies outside of hospitality, is the generation of workers that are taking on these restaurant jobs, teenagers and younger folks, sometimes it's their first job. They want feedback. They want to be told, I'm doing a good job or I'm not doing a great job, and here's how to improve. And so thinking through how some of these operators can tap into that, and a lot of operators have feedback for their workers, but I think we just, as a society and business owners, we need to get better at providing that feedback in a constructive way. And oftentimes what that looks like more tactically is delivering it in a radically candid way, meaning you care personally about that person and you're challenging them directly. So, it comes from a place of caring. And there's a book called Radical Candor. If folks are interested in checking that out, I
Uh-huh,
recommend it.
uh-huh.
But those are some of the key takeaways from the survey that we did.
Yeah,
Super interesting stuff.
I'm gonna ping you on some of that as we dig in. I scribble down some notes, but I want to go back because you were there. I want to nail I want to hammer the nail even harder on recognition and rewards. Uh, it's not done enough. People don't do enough. We're all guilty in life, whether it's your family, your staff, your teammates. We don't thank people enough. We don't recognize them enough. And so, whoever's listening to this, you're not doing it enough. Do it more. The colleague that we talked before we recorded, Jordan and I both know Roger from Restaurant Rockstars, right? And I interview Roger a lot. And one of the points he always hits home when he was an operator is doing that reward and recognitions, doing it publicly, doing it in a pre-shift or a setting or a team management meeting, calling out 1, 2, 3 people for something they did great that week. In front of everybody. I mean, publicly is great, right? So you want to do it one-on-one, but man, when you recognize people in front of their peers, so powerful. A caveat to that is, criticize in private. Like, don't criticize somebody in front of the whole group. Do that in private. So criticize in public, praise in public, criticize in private, praise in public. Very important stuff. So let's. One of the other things I saw, is whether it's that study or something else, talked about people's length of staying in the industry, interest in staying in the industry. It's a bit transient, but your study pointed out a lot of people look at it as potentially a long-term career. What have you seen?
Yeah, I think it is very interesting, and I think this number is I think shocking for most people. Is that yeah, many of these employees see hospitality as a long-term career, and they are looking for opportunities to grow. And so I think this ties in really nicely with this sort of the feedback aspects of it, which are really important. So if you're looking to get better at something, you typically want feedback. And when we looked at this type of question, 24% of these employees said they listed lacking of opportunities as a reason that they left a restaurant job.
Mm-hmm.
And around 75% said that a clear career path and growth opportunity are important or extremely important to their job satisfaction. So I think just from those alone, like there are some things that we can do better in these opportunities for growth as it relates to training them and helping them level up and get better if they see themselves there. And I think so much of this comes down to having open conversations with some of these staff members. Of course, there are some that will be there more temporarily. Maybe that's they're in school or going to university, and this is just a summer job for them. Um,
Right.
but that may not be everyone. And I think understanding and just asking the question, like how long do I have you for, would be a really good one to try and probe into. And if someone wants to be a manager, how are you supporting them in that path? And if they want to be a cook, how are they being supported there? And can you give them other opportunities that would make them want to come to work, that want to where they are learning in their environment? So tons of opportunity there, just from like a learning perspective, especially for folks that see themselves there more long term.
Yeah, really interesting question. I don't think people probably use that. How long do I have you for? Right? You know that they might be moving on, but when you ask that, it's okay to have somebody for a year. It's okay to train them. It's okay to bring them to their next job. They may not have a future that is all the way with you. But let me go to something else that was in the report that talked about, kind of promotion from within. What have you seen in talking with your folks that they've successfully used that as a tool to bring people up? Big restaurants obviously have more opportunities to do that and change and whatnot, but promotion from within versus grabbing the new guy off the street. What do you think?
Look, I think there's a healthy mix, and in a lot of industries, I've heard sort of the belief of 50-50
Mm.
type of promote within versus hiring externally. I think you've got to really figure out what makes the most sense for your business. But I do think that there is sort of there's some inherent risks to external hiring always, and a lot of those inherent risks to me come down to culture. Like you can get someone that's really skilled for that role, but if they don't mesh well with the team, well, now you've got folks that want to leave because, well, they quit their manager, and that person's maybe not the best suited to be a manager from within the culture of that company and that team. And so when you promote from within, which I'm a big advocate of, you have the opportunity to see how that individual works within the broader team. You have the opportunity to and the safety of knowing that this person is already maybe seen as a leader among their peers. So when they are promoted into these roles, it's not a surprise, and people actually feel pretty comfortable with that person being in that role. So I've seen it work in
Yeah.
both cases, right? Like I think you have to really figure out what that looks like in your business. But I think there's so much good that comes out of promoting within that, you probably should err into that a lot more than you think you are today. Um, and really try and help get that person there, because it just not only does it help retain that person if they're a great performer and you want to keep them, but it shows everyone else the organization that you care about the growth of the people at this organization.
That's right. Good points there, Jordan. Thanks. Another thing you do content wise that I saw, and I didn't know before today, I was poking around some more, actually training on your site. There's a whole section that has, and what do you call it? It's almost like restaurant course management or restaurant management courses. And I didn't click too deep on that, but that's an investment to do some training around that. How do you guys think about that? What are you looking to create there?
Yeah, I think so you're referring to the 7 shifts, like online restaurant management courses, I believe.
Yes, exactly.
And so there's a little while ago, in a few years back, we basically put out something called our 7 Shifts Academy.
Hmm.
And what this did is it basically had a bunch of different types of courses for new managers where they can understand and get some training on how to, for instance, create a staff training manual, how they can ask better and more effective interview questions, how they can prep an employee handbook. There's some marketing courses in there as well. There's some scheduling courses because, well, we are at our core a scheduling software. But what are the best practice? What are the tools and technology? And so I think a big part of what we're trying to do with this is understanding that there are so many operators that are coming off pen and paper, or they're coming
Mhm.
off Excel, and they want to make things easier for themselves and their staff. They just don't know what to choose, or they might need some training on how to think about evaluating software, or even training on the software itself. And we just wanted to remove the barriers of friction that may be self-imposed from just not understanding some of these tools well enough. And so, and we went outside scheduling, right, with the other types of courses, and there's daily checklists and all of that stuff. But really, our society is successful if restaurateurs are successful. So I believe, and we're successful if our restaurateurs are successful. And so we want to build a community of hospitality operators that want to learn, want to seek out what others are doing. We want to share the best practices of what other operators in our industry are doing, and to allow others to look at that and take what they want from that, to help their own operation. So
Yeah, well,
uh,
I applaud your investment in time and resources to do that, because there's not necessarily a restaurant operations 101 in college and high school and so forth on how to do this stuff. Folks get thrown in and they learn it on the fly. So that's great. And of course, we look to do a lot of that education as well. Keep it out there. What's working, what's successful, and so forth. So I applaud that effort. Let's recircle to the things that you guys do, and you've already listed them off: scheduling, time clock, communication, engagement, tip management. What are folks not gravitating is not the right word, but when your sales team is selling to folks, what's the commercial look like? I mean, what's hitting these days?
what's hitting these days is in some aspects it's the same that's always landed with people, which is they want a simpler, easier way
Mm.
to build schedules and communicate with their staff online. And with the generation that's largely mobile, right?
Yeah.
They want to do things on their phone and communicate that way. Um, but what we are seeing, and it's timed appropriately, which is the unification of some of these systems such that it kind of ties together more parts in the journey than just scheduling. So when we talk about hiring, training, scheduling, paying, and retaining, that's sort of like in some cases, people refer to that as an HR workflow. We call that the employee journey. Um, People are seeking out more ways to connect parts of that journey, mainly payroll right now and tip management.
Hmm.
So, really excited to say that we're sort of the only streamlined end-to-end solution that's truly connecting those pieces in a very seamless way in the hospitality space. So everything from managing your staff, scheduling your staff, to then calculating the tips automatically, paying out the tips directly to the bank accounts if they want, and having that all be deducted and run through payroll effectively at the end of the day. So again, we're just trying to build more one-click seamless flows for these operators because they don't want to spend time in any piece of software really. And we see that in our app is so
Yeah.
we're sort of like, if you can spend the least amount of time in 7 shifts doing what you need to do, that's a win. We don't want you in there as opposed to, other products, Facebook, they care about eyeballs. They want you in there scrolling. We want you in and out in minutes, if not seconds.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. The
that's how
the headaches that you're solving, calculating tip management and doing all that stuff. Nobody wants to sit down and do that. Take the time to do that. So making it easy is a really big deal. What about as we start to wrap up, trends? I know you go to some shows, you talk with other folks, other industry folks. What are some trends you're seeing generally or specifically out there that you'd want to share in the last little bit?
some of the I sort of alluded to some of the trends here, which is the the independent operator perspective, looking at more evaluating more all-in-one solutions.
Hmm.
And I think that there's a depth to that, right? If you're trying to do 100 products all in one, that's challenging to be good at them, but certainly maybe more than a point solution. Um, we're seeing a little bit more people that are sort of like, okay, well, what are the best of the three things that I need to do that are maybe all in one? So that convergence is taking place, but I do think that there's definitely a move to evaluate tools a little bit more and more thoroughly, which is exciting. So I think we see more people asking how things integrate
Yeah.
versus taking things at face value for X integrates with Y. So I think the curiosity is there. And I think that was in large part COVID. Like it pushed so many operators to get a tool that they didn't want. Maybe it was a third party food delivery tool, but they had to adopt a bunch of this stuff or they'd go out of business. And so we're still seeing almost the after effects of how people were forced into learning how to evaluate software.
One thing I want to circle back to, because you joined a program of ours a couple of years back, and we were talking about availability of staff, but now availability isn't as big as an issue as wages, and wages have just gone rampant through our economy. Any trends you're seeing on how folks are dealing with that big increase, shrinking either the number of people that you are using? Well, this is what you guys do: help people use people more efficiently. So wages, availability, what do you think?
Yeah, in a lot of cases, it came out in our study. Availability and flexibility is sort of the number one thing that employees care about. And it's been a challenge for operators, I think, for a long time to marry the business needs with the worker needs perfectly.
Sure.
And I think that there's still tension around that. And I think where we're trying to get to as it relates to our product specifically, and maybe others, is how to best predict your needs such that you can staff more appropriately during those specific times. Because if you don't use software, like you're just sort of relying on your finger in the wind, and everyone unfortunately likes to think that they just have like the best gut around trends. And to a degree, there is some truth to that, but there's a lot of things that they're missing. And so certainly that as it relates to wages, there is a lot of pressure in certain states with some of the laws that have been changing around how people think about staffing, and are sort of forcing people to operators to look at technology to, you know, replace some staff in some cases. Um, I think in terms of, there are certain places that that's more acceptable, maybe in like a quick service world where you just want something quick and fast. I think in full service hospitality, there is, I think, always going to be sort of like a natural tension between a great customer experience and what technology can augment within that world. Because um, I think there's something still very sacred about people and how and service in that industry that we want, we as humans crave and we yearn for. So I think that there's, I think, always going to be some natural tension there, but I do
Yeah.
think it's a natural thing that we need to be mindful of. And ultimately we all, you know, if you want to probably go on a date night, you to a nice restaurant, you, I mean, like, do you want to be served by robots or a person? And how does that impact your experience? And are you staring
Yeah.
at your phone, ordering off a QR code? Or are you looking at a menu? Like, there are so many small things that people are thinking through and have, you know, some have made decisions on, some haven't. And in certain segments they have, but not in other segments. So I think we're going to continue to see more tension around that.
Yeah, I think the next couple of years are going to be interesting on a lot of stuff you pointed out there. All right, as we wrap up, I wanted you to hit on uh, obviously your website, any other resources you have. I don't believe this to be the case. I believe you guys are geographically unconstrained. You probably work with folks all over the country and the continent, so you can relate to that and give folks a way to get a hold of you. If your socials, let them have it.
Awesome. Well, yeah, sevenshifts.com is our website. So it's the number seven shifts, SHIFTS.com. Yeah, you can sign up for a free trial for 7 shifts. We really pride ourselves on making it really simple and easy for you to get started. You can even drop in your existing Excel schedule and spreadsheet, and we'll automatically build the schedule for you. So again, trying to make things easy for folks to migrate into that world. We're also, you know, working, we've also been seeing a lot of success in connecting scheduling with our new payroll product.
Mhm.
So definitely check that out if you're on the website. And if you want to reach me for any direct questions, happy to chat. My email is jordan@7shifts.com.
Excellent. Awesome, Jordan. Good stuff. We covered a lot here in a short period of time. So I appreciate that going through that. All right, folks, Jordan Boesch from 7 Shifts. You can find them on the web at 7shifts.com for more great restaurant marketing, service, people, and tech tips. Stay tuned to us here at runningrestaurants.com. In the meantime, do us a favor, hit a like button, a subscribe button, share it. Please review it wherever you're listening or watching. All that stuff helps us and we appreciate it. We'll see you next time. Thanks, Jordan.
Thanks.